am 60 years old. And just last week, a man nearly 20 years younger than me said, "You have this unusual kind of presence, the kind that makes people want to keep looking." I was not wearing anything special. Just a simple white blouse buttoned exactly 3 buttons paired with high-waisted beige trousers and low-heeled shoes. Nothing revealing, nothing fancy. My hair was loosely tied at the nape of my neck. No makeup, just a touch of tinted lip balm. That was it. His comment made me laugh, not because I was surprised, but because I've gotten used to reactions like that for nearly 2 years now. And the funniest part, there was a time I truly believed that looks like that would never come my way again after the age of 60. For a long stretch of my life, I dressed like I was putting on armor, loose, dark colors, no detail. I used to call it fatigue fashion. It meant don't overthink it. As long as it's easy to wear covers, my stomach does not stand out, and no one asks questions, that's enough. I used to believe that after a certain age, women no longer needed to be beautiful. No need for compliments, no need for anyone's attention. All we needed was to be decent, clean, and put together. That was enough. Until one day I attended a parent-teacher conference for my 8th grade granddaughter. I sat among many other women, most of them younger than me, and something strange happened. I felt like a shadow. No one noticed me. No one started a conversation. No one looked at me for more than 2 seconds. I went home, not thinking much, until I looked at the group photo taken that day. In that photo, I stood in the center, but the eye slid right past me as if I were not even there. A dull gray top, straight, shapeless trousers, black leather shoes, hair pulled back tightly against my head. I looked like a woman who once had style but gave up a long time ago. I stared at that photo, and for the first time in years I stopped trying to comfort myself. I admitted something painful. I had let myself disappear. Not because of my age, but because I stopped taking care of myself and thought that was strength. I had confused simplicity with surrender. I had confused not needing praise with not caring how I look anymore, and I was wrong. From that day, I started over. No big splash, no dramatic makeover, no chasing trends. I just did one thing. Every day I wore something that made me feel like I was still me, but a slightly more beautiful version of me. And then the compliments started to return. From family, from other women, from men I did not know sometimes, just a warm glance, sometimes a short comment like, "You look radiant today." Not because I looked young again, but because I dressed like someone who is still alive, still in love with life, still able to feel beauty in the tiniest of details. If you are 55, 60, or 65, and you have ever felt like the world is slowly overlooking you, I just want to tell you this. Women are never truly invisible. We just need to dress the right way for ourselves. And in this video, I want to share with you 5 small changes I made in how I dress. Tiny changes that did not make me look 20 years younger, but made men, and more importantly myself, look at me with an entirely different gaze. 1. I chose soft fabrics instead of complicated designs. After I made the decision to start dressing for myself again, the first thing I did was not go shopping for new clothes. Instead, I pulled everything out of my old closet and ran my fingers over each piece. I did not look at the colors. I did not check the brands. I did not even care about the styles. I simply closed my eyes and touched each blouse, each dress, and quietly asked myself, how does this fabric make me feel? To my surprise, I discovered something. There were some expensive tops, beautifully designed, but when I touched them, they felt cold, rough, heavy. On the other hand, there were some very old dresses, simple, no name brand. Yet the fabric was so soft I wanted to put it on right away. That was when I realized after 60, my body no longer gets along with thick, stiff, or tight materials. What used to make me look strong now just made me feel tired. And the opposite was also true. Soft, light, flowy fabrics made me feel like I could finally breathe inside the clothes I wore. That day I picked an old caramel-colored silk dress, soft, cool, light as a breath. I wore it out for a weekend walk, just a quick trip to the supermarket and then a stop at a familiar little cafe. When I walked into the cafe, I did not think much of it. But while I was picking out a pastry, I noticed a man probably in his 40s whisper something to his wife. She looked over at me, then smiled. I had no idea what they said, but I knew that look. It was not judgmental. It was the kind of look people give when they feel something gentle, the kind of gaze reserved for someone who seems truly at ease, moving slowly and beautiful in their own quiet way. That was the first time in a very long time that I felt present. Since then, I stopped chasing complicated designs. I no longer looked for tops with frills, dramatic pleats, or overly detailed outfits. I chose fabric first, style second. I chose fabric that felt soft to the touch, the kind that made me want to slow down and be kinder to myself. Why does this matter so much? Because at 60 and beyond, our bodies are no longer defined by sharp lines. Our skin loses elasticity. Our waistlines are less visible. Our shoulders may round a bit, our bellies may soften, and everything no longer looks as tight as it used to. If you wear thick, stiff, or tight fabrics, just sitting down can make you feel trapped in your own clothes. The creases in the material might reveal things you want to hide, and without realizing it, you start to hunch your shoulders, fold inward, avoid being seen. But with soft fabrics, silk, chiffon, lightweight cotton, or soft rayon, your body has room to move naturally. And even more important, the way soft fabric flows creates a feminine feel even when you are not trying to look feminine. Imagine this: a thick linen curtain barely moves when the wind blows. But a sheer light voile curtain, it dances gently, creating motion and draws your eyes in. A woman's body works the same way. Soft fabrics create visual flow. A 65-year-old woman in a long silk dress, not tight but not baggy, either gives off a kind of ease, like watching a painting that breathes. And that is what men notice without even realizing it. They will not say, "That silk dress looks great on you," but they will sense the softness, the way the fabric sways with every step you take, the way it falls into natural curves. Not showing off, not hiding, just enough to make someone want to look a little longer. I chose soft fabric not to look younger, but to feel like a soft presence, still moving gently through a world in a rush. And men, they notice that faster than most women think. You do not need a clear compliment, just a gaze that lingers a bit longer. A warm smile, a simple question like, "Where did you get that dress?" is all I need to know I am on the right path. 2. I started wearing clothes that fit instead of trying to hide my flaws. I used to be the queen of hiding my belly. I had an entire collection of oversized tops, shapeless dresses, long cardigans down to my knees, wide-leg pants, and I always picked the ones that hid my figure the most. I used to think that was smart. After the age of 55, your lower belly gets softer. Your shoulders are no longer square and your waist almost disappears. Wearing loose clothes helped me stop worrying about how I looked. It was like throwing a blanket over everything that was no longer perfect. But the problem was, I could no longer see myself in the mirror. What I saw was a strange shape, no curves, no character, nothing that felt sensual or alive. Until one afternoon, I threw on a long cardigan over a slouchy cotton dress to pick up my granddaughter from school. A little boy in her class ran past, pointed at me, and said, "Is that your grandma? She dresses like the principal." Both my granddaughter and I laughed. But that night, when I changed out of those clothes and hung up the dress, I stood there and stared at it. I asked myself directly, am I dressing like someone who's trying to disappear? And if that was true, what exactly was I afraid of being seen? I was not afraid of getting older. I was afraid of my own gaze, afraid of how I looked at myself when my body no longer looked like it used to. And because I was afraid, I used clothes to cover up instead of facing it. But then I tried something different. I pulled out an old cotton dress, one that gently hugged my waist, and put it on again. Not tight, not revealing, just fitted to the body I have right now. And for the first time in years, I did not feel like I was hiding under layers of fabric. I felt like I was standing tall, breathing evenly. I had a shape again. The next morning I wore that same dress to buy flowers. An older vendor, probably a few years older than me, looked at me and said, "You look like someone strolling through Paris today." I smiled without replying, but inside my heart lifted. From that day on, I started to shift. I stopped buying clothes that drowned me. I did not start buying tight clothes either. I began choosing pieces that fit my body now, clothes that showed my natural shape, that did not squeeze, but also did not hide. And the result? When my clothes fit, I naturally stood up straighter. The way I walked felt more grounded. I no longer had to tug at my blouse, adjust my dress, or wonder if my belly was showing. I knew that outfit was chosen to support me, not fight against me. And I discovered something interesting. Men will not compliment you by saying, "That fits perfectly," or "Great choice of cut." But they will notice the presence that comes from good fit. They see a woman with definition, with style, with presence. Whether you are 60 or 65, they still see you as someone worth noticing. Once I went with a friend to a small gathering at a restaurant. I wore a buttoned blouse, gently cinched a slim leather belt at my waist, and paired it with high-waisted trousers. No one said I looked young, but one man in the group said something I will never forget. "You dress in a way that makes people want to hear what you have to say." You see, that was not about being pretty. It was about being right. Right for my body, right for my essence, right for the woman I am today. After turning 60, I do not dress to attract attention. I dress to remind others and myself that I am still here, still choosing, and still worthy of being seen on my own terms. I started choosing colors that made my face look brighter. There is something many women over 60 often overlook when they get dressed, the way color affects the face. I used to be like that too. For a long stretch, my entire closet looked like a stormy gray palette. Dark gray tops, black, deep brown, olive green, dark navy. Why? Because I believed that dark colors slim you down, look elegant, and go with everything. And yes, they were easy to pair. But there was a problem. Every time I wore those colors, I felt like I had to put on sunglasses or apply a darker lipstick just to avoid looking washed out. But the more makeup I wore, the more forced it felt. And whenever I took off the glasses and looked in the mirror, there was this strange tiredness in my face. I kept blaming my age, that my skin tone was uneven, that my cheeks had started sagging, that my eyes were not as bright as they used to be. Until one day I went to my granddaughter's birthday party, and she insisted that I try on her blush pink cream blouse. At first I refused. Too youthful. That color is not for Grandma. She pleaded, "Just try it on. I think it would look amazing on you." I gave in, put it on, and when I looked in the mirror, I had to pause for a long time. Not because I looked younger, but because my face looked noticeably brighter. My eyes stood out more. My lips looked full of life again. It was still me. Same skin, same hair, same eyes. But by simply switching the color of my top, it felt like someone had turned on the lights on my entire face. I remember that day so clearly. As I walked into the party room, an old friend I had not seen in over 20 years stared at me for a moment and said, "What did you change? You look glowing again." I just smiled and said nothing, but deep down I knew it was the power of color. From that day on, I started learning to choose colors that brighten my skin rather than trying to hide my figure. No need for anything flashy. I simply began replacing those heavy dark tones with warmer, lighter shades colors with a hint of pink or soft cream. Colors like blush-tinted beige, pale jade green, soft lavender, muted rose, light butter yellow, even light olive green. These colors do not make me stand out in a crowd, but they make my face feel friendlier, more approachable, and most importantly, they make men's eyes linger just a little longer. Why? Because most men are not great at breaking down fashion, but they do pick up on a woman's energy through the color she wears. A charcoal gray top might make you look serious, but it can also make you feel distant. Whereas a cream top with a soft pink hue, it makes you look gentle, open, like you are glowing from within. Think about this. One woman sits in the corner of a cafe in a black outfit, full makeup, very still. Another wears a pastel top with just a light gloss on her lips, a soft smile in her eyes, sitting in the same space. Who do you think the men will notice more? Not because the second woman is younger or prettier, but because the light from her clothing creates an inviting presence, something that makes people want to get closer. 3. I used to think I could not pull off light colors, but the truth is, the issue was not the color, it was the tone. My skin has a warm olive undertone, so instead of pure white, I go for creamy ivory. Instead of bright pink, I choose dusty rose. Instead of bold teal, I pick a soft grayish jade. And little by little, I rediscovered a version of myself that felt softer, more vibrant, even without makeup or fancy accessories. One time I wore a pale butter yellow blouse to a college reunion. An old male friend looked at me and said, "You look like a gentle autumn afternoon." A strange compliment, but I understood what he meant. I was not the best dressed woman in the room, but I made people feel at ease. And in this noisy world, when a man feels at ease just by looking at you, it means you have touched something in him emotionally. And sometimes all it takes is the right color in your clothing to say that without saying a word. 4. I started using accessories like a period, not a hyphen. I used to be so lazy about wearing accessories. Not because I did not like them, but because I often thought, well, I am older now. Why bother adding anything extra? Or worse, I would think, if I wear that, I will look like one of those flashy older ladies who are trying too hard. So for many years, all I ever wore was a watch. No necklaces, no earrings, no rings, and almost never a scarf brooch or anything you might call a finishing touch. Because in my mind back then, accessories were only for younger women. That changed one evening while I was having tea with an old friend, a woman 3 years older than me, but with an incredibly elegant way of dressing. She wore a light blue silk blouse, her hair pulled up neatly, and a pair of small teardrop-shaped pearl earrings. I found my eyes constantly drawn to those earrings, even though they were not big or flashy. They were just enough. Enough to brighten her face. Enough to give her whole outfit a natural pause, a soft highlight. And more importantly, enough to make me think she put in effort, she cared, and she had taste. That was when I realized accessories are like periods in a sentence. Without a period, the sentence runs on endlessly, tiring the listener. But with one well-placed period, everything pauses just right. From that day, I started to change the way I thought. I do not use accessories to impress. I use accessories to create stillness and completion, like when I wear a pair of small matte silver earrings with a white blouse, or when I loosely tie a wine-colored silk scarf around my wrist while wearing a plain beige dress. These pieces do not jump out at anyone, but if someone looks closely, they will smile. And surprisingly, men are very sensitive to small details if those details make you feel complete. One time I went out for coffee with a friend. I wore a cream-colored V-neck sweater and light brown culottes. It was an ordinary outfit, nothing worth mentioning, except that day I pinned a tiny golden leaf brooch to the left side of my collar. A man at the next table, someone I did not know, walked past me as he was leaving. He stopped briefly and said, "That brooch, it adds such a poetic touch." I was not surprised by the compliment. I was surprised that he noticed. And that was when I realized sometimes it is the little details that make the whole story worth telling. Accessories are not just extras. They are a quiet way to say I did not dress in a rush. I made a choice, and I respect myself. At this age, accessories do not need to be many. They just need to be right. I do not wear clunky bracelets. I do not wear oversized earrings. I do not carry gemstone-covered purses or big statement belts. I choose just one piece each time I go out. And I always ask myself, does this piece make me feel softer, deeper, or more refined? If the answer is yes, I wear it. You do not have to spend a lot of money. Many accessories are very affordable, but if they are styled right within the right outfit, they become the stamp of your personal style. They are like the perfect last line in a short paragraph, leaving people with a sense of wholeness and quiet admiration. And in the end, I have learned this. Men rarely compliment your accessories, but they will compliment your entire presence when that accessory helps you look like someone with a story to tell. 5. I dress to be myself, not to impress. There was a time when I dressed by second guessing. I would ask myself, does this look okay in other people's eyes? Is this outfit too much? Should I try dressing like her since everyone else is doing it? I used to think that was being thoughtful, that it meant I knew how to blend in. But over time, it just made me feel tired. Because when you dress to impress, you are constantly seeing yourself through someone else's eyes. And sometimes you forget that your own gaze is the one that matters most. I realized that one very ordinary Sunday morning. That day, I wore a loose white blouse, high-waisted beige pants, and a pair of brown flats. My hair was loosely tied back. No makeup, no accessories. I just wanted to take a walk around the neighborhood, look at flowers, buy some fresh vegetables, breathe in the morning air. I was not thinking about who would see me or what they would think. I dressed purely for comfort, for ease, and for myself. And strangely enough, that was the day I received a compliment from a man I had met a few times at the little bookstore nearby. He passed by, paused for a few seconds, and said, "You look like you just walked out of a gentle movie." I laughed, but deep down I knew for the first time in years I was not trying to impress. And still I was noticed, because I had dressed in a way that was true to me. No trying, no pretending, no copying anyone else as a template. After 60, you do not need to follow trends or chase what is in. What you do need is to reconnect with your own essence, that quiet, rich presence you have been building your whole life, and dress in a way that lets it shine gently. I no longer ask, what will people think when they see me? I ask, do I feel like myself in this outfit? If the answer is yes, I wear it. One day I wore a lavender linen dress barefoot in the garden watering plants while softly humming an old tune. My granddaughter stood watching me for a long time, then said, "Grandma, today you look like a character from a fairy tale. I do not need anyone to see me as a princess." But I was happy that in her eyes I was living in tune with my own spirit, slow, light, and full. I have learned that after 60 women have a privilege that not everyone dares to claim, the privilege to dress for ourselves. Not for a man's gaze, not for society's comments, not for the past, and especially not out of fear of aging. And strangely enough, when I finally dared to dress the way I wanted, the kind of attention I received became effortless. Not loud, not forced, but meaningful, deep, and memorable. Because when you are truly yourself, you radiate something no lipstick, no hairstyle, no brand name label can imitate. And men, they may not understand fashion in detail, but they will instantly recognize this is a woman with a story, with taste, with soul, and with a quiet kind of magnetism that makes them want to linger just a little bit longer. So we have just walked through 5 things, seemingly small ones: fabric fit, color, accessories, and finally the way we wear clothes. But it was those very things that helped me at 65 dress again as a woman, not as a young woman, not as a woman trying to fight time, but as someone who has lived long enough to understand beauty is not found in perfection, it's found in harmony. Harmony between what you wear and who you are, between your body and your energy, between your appearance and your soul. I used to think I had to hide my age, hide the wrinkles, hide the soft belly or the waist that disappeared over time. But now I realize I don't have to hide anything at all. I just have to dress as if I respect myself. Dress as if I'm still alive, still moved by the world, still able to hold my head high and smile when someone stranger or not looks my way. And when I dress like that, men notice, not because they think I look young again, but because they see presence. They see a woman who is not trying too hard, but also not giving up. They see someone who knows who she is and chooses to show up accordingly. I'm not hoping that you'll finish this video and go out to buy a whole new wardrobe or reinvent your style or chase after any trend. I just hope that next time you open your closet, you'll pick something that makes you feel just a little lighter, stand a little taller, and smile a little more when you see yourself in the mirror. Because you deserve to dress like a woman who still has light in her eyes and warmth in her heart. Because in the end, elegance is not about age or labels, it's about aura. And aura, no one can give that to you. You have to choose to dress like you already have it. And over time, you truly will. What about you? Is there something in your closet that just feels so you every time you put it on? A color that makes your face light up. a pair of pants that makes you stand up straighter, a little scarf that once made someone say, "Wow, you've got style today." Tell me in the comments below, because who knows, your little story might be the nudge another woman needs to rediscover herself. If these thoughts feel familiar or helpful to you, hit the like button so I know you're here. And follow this channel if you want to keep walking with me through deeper topics about style, about soul, about womanhood, especially for those of us who are no longer young but never stopped being beautiful. And if you have a friend, a sister, a mother who has started to feel invisible when she looks in the mirror, send her this video, because sometimes all it takes is the right reminder at the right moment for a woman to step out of the shadows and begin again with herself.